Workers at this family-owned factory in Hong Kong have been engaged in a weeks-long cover-up. They're relabeling hundreds of thousands of bottles and cans of salty Asian food staples like hoisin and soy sauce. Because as of November, the US will no longer accept goods branded as made in Hong Kong.
We need to change the labels. We need to cover everything that we said made in Hong Kong. We need to cover that up. And then we need to label it as origin as China.
The identity crisis will also have financial implications. Washington's policy change means goods made in Hong Kong will be subject to tariffs, like all other Chinese products. But even access to the lucrative US market is at risk. President Donald Trump says he's considering ending all transactions with America's biggest trading partner.
So we lose billions of dollars, and if we didn't do business with them, we wouldn't lose billions of dollars. It's called decoupling, so you'll start thinking about it.
That would affect up to $550 billion in annual trade between the world's two largest economies. Trump also wants to blacklist American firms that outsource jobs to China. And he's threatening to sanction Beijing for what he says is the Chinese government's failure to contain COVID-19, allowing the disease to spread globally. It's an accusation Beijing has refuted.
U.S. politicians have ignored the basic facts, continued to maliciously attack China's political system, wantonly slandered and smeared China, and sowed discord between China and other countries. The Chinese side stands firm against these acts.
Trump's latest warnings echo the promises made in his 2016 presidential campaign. And if he wins a second term, businesses in Hong Kong and everywhere else in China could lose some flavor. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
All right, let's get more on this from Anna Ashton. She's the Business Advisory Services Director at the U.S.-China Business Council in Washington. Anna, thanks so much for joining us on the program. You know, the U.S. president has raised the prospect of decoupling the U.S. economy from China. Is that even realistic to think that the U.S. could separate its economy from China's?
It's really not, Rachel. It's so distressing to hear this kind of rhetoric. The reality is, you know, he's made this claim that if we were to decouple, the U.S. would no longer lose billions of dollars. In point of fact, it's the absolute opposite. If we were to decouple, we would lose hundreds of billions of dollars. In 2017, U.S. companies operating in China had revenue from China of at least $376 billion. So we stand to lose at least that much. Even just the WeChat executive order that he released on August 6th, if it ends up being applied in the China market to U.S. companies and U.S. persons, would cause companies to lose roughly $75 billion.
We know that Trump taking a hard line against China was a 2016 campaign promise, and clearly he's trying to take an even harder line leading up to the election. But does he have a point? Is the U.S. just a little bit too reliant on China?
The U.S. may be overly reliant on China in some sectors, and I think, you know, we've got lots of policymakers throughout Washington and across the country, industry leaders looking into that and trying to figure out if they need to better diversify their supply chains and ensure supply chain security more completely than they have in the past. And I think COVID has caused that kind of introspection across the world, not just to do with China, but overall. You know, the just-in-time supply chain model is very efficient, but is it effective in a situation where there is a crisis in some country that is a major part of your supply chain? And it seems that the answer is no, there need to be more redundancies. So absolutely, there's a point to be taken there, but the solution is certainly not some sort of drastic decoupling.
Yeah, certainly. And the president is also threatening U.S. companies if they create jobs overseas. He says that he wants to have many of the jobs that are done in China to be done in the United States. But can the U.S. really compete with China when it comes to manufacturing, for example? Can U.S. companies compete on the same level playing field as China?
So there are numerous issues here. One of the biggest ones that he's overlooking is the fact that when U.S. companies create manufacturing jobs in China these days in 2020, by and large, those jobs are being created to serve the Chinese market and to serve the greater East Asian and Pacific marketplace. they're not jobs that are there to manufacture cheap goods to export to the United States. There are those jobs, but they're a very small percentage of the overall jobs created by U.S. companies in 2020 compared to what they were in the year 2001 when China became a member of the WTO. Second point, could the U.S. absorb all of the jobs that are done in China that are attached to products that are sold and bought in the United States if they were suddenly to be brought back? I mean, I think that the answer is just a resounding no. It wouldn't be cost effective. The products would no longer be purchasable by their target market. You would probably see a lot of jobs just being automated. And then there are other jobs that we lack. We lack the size of workforce or the skills in our workforce to replicate what is being done on the ground in China.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Anna Ashton in Washington, thank you.